It doesn't happen every year, but this season, the Chiefs might get a little bit of draft help. Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for making us your first listen here on Locked On Chiefs. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen. We are brought to you by Game Time. Every episode, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NFL, and you're going to get $20 off of your first purchase at Game Time. Looking for some fun today. I kind of snuck the reins away from Chris, and we are talking draft, and a couple of things that kind of factor into it. I'm Ryan Tracy. If you don't know me, been doing this show for 9 years going on. Been a draft analyst, physiological coach, and a consultant in the league for about 20 years. A lot of stuff that I have seen. And it all comes back down to how you make your selections and how you go about your evaluations. And that's what we're talking about today. You can find me at NFL33.com. My rankings will be up there starting very soon to get you ready for the draft. You can get me at RGR Football, my personal channel where me and my crew go through a whole lot of other aspects of film, etc. But you have to go right now to rogueapc.com. That's where the Athletic Matrix is out right now. Version 2 is out and about. Use the code LOC and you'll get a nice discount. And the draft guide is coming. I'm working away on it. We're going to have that very shortly. Make sure that you like and sub and hit the bell here on the network and here on the show. You can get that much more over at the text line at 816-357-8781. Get subscribed over there. We're going to have a straightforward talk with a lot of real takes on where I'm at with the factors that are going to affect the Chiefs draft. Some of those guys on this roster have something to prove. They affect what the Chiefs do by really giving themselves a chance to come up, a chance to prove what they have. The Chiefs are going to make some plans around that. Who are the guys that have something to prove? That's coming up later in the show. The draft risers and fallers and what it means for the Kansas City Chiefs, both for targets and for opportunity. That's coming up next. But we start with an interesting concept that I got from a fan question that I want to go over, and that's getting draft help. There's a lot of hype right now. This is hype season. In fact, I would dare say that we have crossed into lying season. So if you hear rumors right now about what a team says or a team thinks, take it easy because there's a lot of smoke out there that is covering up what are some small burning fires that they want to catch flame. A couple of things are going to help to set the Chiefs up for what they want to do. And a lot of it revolves around the quarterbacks. Now, I'm not somebody that has this class as a top tier echelon of quarterbacks. Yes, Cam Ward is gifted. Yes, Shedeur Sanders is interesting. Yes, Jackson Dart has some moxie, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. People purporting that as this draft season goes along, that this quarterback class is up there with last year's is just frankly not true. But is it as bad as the Kenny Pickett year? I don't think so. There's somewhere in between. So any kind of rise or any kind of change that affects what happens in the first round, particularly before pick 31, and more importantly, before pick 20, 19, something like that, affects the Chiefs and what they're going to be able to do in terms of moving around the board. And I do think they're going to have to move around the board. You'll hear more about that tomorrow and next week. Got to get out of 31 pretty much at all costs at this point, in my opinion. We'll see what that turns into and have that discussion on another show. But the guys that can help, two in particular are standing out. Shedeur Sanders is climbing up boards a little bit in the media. I don't think that's true in the league, but I do think a guy that I have rated as a late round pick, right around where the Chiefs are going to pick, now seems to have secured himself definitely in the top half of the draft, and maybe even as high as some of the talking heads in the national media think. I don't think that's still necessarily accurate. I don't think he's a top 5 pick, period. If they do, I think they're taking a significant chance, and I wouldn't do it. But either way, it secures the fact that even if the Chiefs wanted to trade up, it puts another quarterback a slot ahead of them. And that helps every single position fall down to the Kansas City Chiefs. So you got to thank him for that. You know, Coach Prime had an interesting week this week, trying to protect his kids from a young coach, young scout, trying to get them to repeat their 40s at the pro day in a consistent way. it's an interesting take because Prime has a lot of things to say. His son will as well. And I think part of the whole debacle here, the whole math about going in on Shedeur is what comes with him. And I think that will scare some teams off, maybe even those at the top of the draft. One in particular, New York franchise that's had a bad go of publicity lately, to tell you the truth. I'm really interested to see how that comes out because I would be counseling them against making another fiasco of themselves, but we'll see what happens. The other quarterback that definitely is going to make some rumblings here, and I think in a positive way for the Kansas City Chiefs, is Milroe out of Alabama. And the fact that he's been invited to the green room on draft night changes everything because it's great conjecture for some people to say that he's a first-round pick. He is not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to say that out loud. But if one team thinks so and wants him in that green room, that changes things for the Chiefs because it's not going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. So that means someone ahead of them is taking or possibly taking a quarterback in Milroe that bumps another solid actual player down to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, it's nothing against Milroe. I think he's a perfectly fine quarterback prospect. He's got a great arm. He's got great legs. He's a good athlete. What he does in decision-making and throwing the ball, I do not like. And I don't think that he is I don't even know that he's a day 2 pick, to tell you the truth, but certainly not a top 32 pick in this roster for me, in this draft for me. But let somebody else make that mistake. It helps the Chiefs get a player at 31, or more importantly, in the 20s, that maybe they want to get. And if they don't get a chance to trade up to chase a player that I think there are several that have the attractiveness for the Kansas City Chiefs. The other thing that it does is it gives the Chiefs another option, another target for a team from the second round to come draft in for. And that's nearly as good. We know the history of Brett Veach not trading back, but it's still a viable concept depending on if your top grades, your first round grades at your positions that you need are gone. So if another team wants to come back into the first and you can get out of 31, maybe only have to drop a few picks, that is gold for you. And I've been banking on it being Jackson Dart that was the attractive part there. You'll be surprised to see where he is on my actual board versus the other quarterbacks. But if Jalen Milroe is another option there that other teams are attracted in, you can't really go wrong. So that is another player that could help the Chiefs get to the point where they want to be in order to draft the players that they need. Some guys are rising, some guys are falling. We're going to go over them, come back on the backside of this. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball game, showdown, or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. It is just getting kind of crazy right about now. Finding the great seats at a great price, that's your goal. And that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time helps you make the last-minute tickets even easier than ever to get. Prices actually drop as the events get closer. With their all-in pricing, you can see the total cost up front with no surprises at checkout. You can get the priority. It's the last-minute deals that day that save you up to 60% off of the last-minute sports, yes, concerts, comedy, theater. You can grab the last-minute seats for anybody, including baseball. You go get the Royals and save big on the zone deals. Those always help as well. They give you peace of mind because you can see the seats before you buy them. You get that lowest price guarantee, and that means they'll book it, and you can book it with confidence. So take the guesswork out of getting your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That gets you $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, and they are guaranteed. Now, no draft process is in sync until you talk about risers and fallers. If you want to know who the best players are athletically in this draft, go check out the athletic matrix at rogueapc.com and use that code that I gave you earlier, LOC. You'll get a nice discount there, and make sure that you're tuned in for the draft guide. We're going to give you all the details that you need. But in the meantime, who's rising and falling here late? Not about the film, not about anything else. Two players, a number of players, but we're going to start with two at the same school at Texas. And on the positive side, Jaden Blue came in and had a pretty good combine. A running back that you think can hit that highest gear and really add some explosiveness to the top of your offense. A guy that I like in this offense that I think could be someone that helps out Isaiah Pacheco, that helps out Kareem Hunt. Yes, he's small, but honestly, for a 5'9" running back, 196 pounds is still pretty dang good. And I do think that when you look at somebody that you want to put into a role that is more like the home runs you saw from Jamal Charles, I'm fine with that. He came back and in a place that Jamal Charles used to run, hit a pro day time that's been reported by multiple sources and two that I trust at 4.2540. That's markedly better than his combine time, which was already very, very good. At that speed, he's nearly as fast as Xavier Worthy. Now, we all know playing on the field and running on the track are two different things, but having that last gear is completely worth it. And I think somebody else at the Chiefs should be paying attention to. Now, on the flip side, his teammate Isaiah Bond, has had a rough go. Under investigation here, been arrested for an sexual assault charge. And 2 weeks before the draft, that's a tough order. Hard to recover from that. And I don't think that that's necessarily the end of a draft choice, but it definitely will affect and plummet his stock. The Chiefs have been through this before. I don't know if he was on their radar previously. Been some other reports that maybe had soured him with a number of teams. Chiefs could have been among them. But I think now it's probably a point where the Chiefs are probably less interested than they may have been just a few days ago. So from the Texas kids to the guys that are standing out, one of my long shot quarterbacks is Dillon Gabriel from Oregon. He is a guy that is undersized completely. A lot of folks want to call him a system quarterback, and I can see that, except he runs the system really good. So if you get to the point where you want somebody that's very short in stature for a quarterback anyway, not the prototype, but can come in, has arm talent, has size to move around the pocket at least. I wouldn't want him like scrambling a lot just to take hits, but around the pocket, I feel like he can get in and out of where he needs to be, climbing in particular, without bailing so that he can deliver the ball. And as the process has gone on, teams like the Niners have been kind of upfront evaluating. Everybody's looking for the next Bo Nix, so Oregon makes sense. But I think teams underestimate just how much he can put on the ball. He's got good arm talent, and he understands where to go. He's a tempo thrower. That's perfectly legitimate, and I won't even complain about that. But I think even our old friend Rob Rang, who's with Fox Sports, was able to come back and really outline the fact that he's got more zip than scouts thought when they see him in person. And I do think he's a guy that can still make a roster and still help you out. Will he be a backup? Certainly to begin with, absolutely. But some backups grow into starters, and I think he's a guy that I wouldn't necessarily want to bet on if I didn't have to. Good news for me is that another riser in this group is Ashton Gelati from Louisville. They list him as an edge. He can play in at tackle if you need to, but I think the edge was the question. I do think he played a little bit heavier in 2024, and that did change just how much some of the get-off was, but still put up a 60 pressure season, just short of it. Very consistent junior to senior year, putting that pressure out there. Didn't get home quite as much, but also didn't quite have as much help on that defensive line. Interesting thing is, upon retesting at the pro day with the scouts there, was the same 265, but was able to actually improve. He is now timed at a sub 1.610 split. And it's great to run a 40, but if you're a defensive lineman, I'm looking for that 10 split. It is a big part of how I measure how you can get off and get to the quarterback. At 159, a sub 1.6, that tells you this guy can rush the passer despite his size. Comparable here to some guys that are playing around 250, 245 pounds even, and he's coming in at 265. The bigger plus is that he ran a 3-cone in a sub 7. That is incredible, especially at that size. That's what you're looking for. You don't have to necessarily, have the most power, which he is pretty well established in having a good power rush, but you got to be able to move around the edge. That 3-cone is incredibly important to how you estimate what a pass rusher can be. Now, the athletic matrix will be updated for him. But I already had him pretty well regarded in my evaluations for the edge rushers in the coming draft guide. So make sure you get over to Rogue APC and get that. I'm really happy to see that because he's a guy that has paid off. He has come along and he's been running, I think, really, really well in a consistent way that shows you he can go produce pressure in the league. And the Chiefs need some of that, especially if you're talking about who's going to man the other edge, who's going to be consistent, who has something to prove. That's coming up in a little bit. But keep an eye on Ash Jalot. So last guy that I do want to talk about, and unfortunately is falling down, the guy who may be the best route runner in this class, but unfortunately is not timed out very well. And it just means that he can still be a draft pick. He's just not going to be closer to the top 100 where a lot of folks thought Xavier Restrepo would go. He's now a solid day 3 guy because he ran a 4.86. That, unfortunately, when you decide to only put up one time, that's very difficult. But again, much like Jalot, he was a sub-7 3-cone, which means he may not be able to fly down the field. Maybe he just had a subpar day testing. It probably doesn't mean that he's really a 4 or 5 guy in disguise. He's really not got that long speed, but he's quick in and out of his changes. He can be underneath. He can be that route runner that moves the chains for you. So I think he's now becoming a steal. He'll be a day 3 guy, maybe even a late day 3 guy that can move the ball for you. And so keep an eye out for him as the Chiefs get closer as well. And all this is predicated on making the roster and making the team better. But to do that, you have to make sure that you have all your pieces in place and all your guys are performing to perform. And especially when you have something to prove, that becomes all about your career. Who are those guys that have something to prove? That's coming up next. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell. Thank you for being with us here on Locked On Chiefs. Check out another Locked On show for your next one. Now, guys that have something to prove that are currently on this roster. We have a number of players that are back on one-year deals. I'm not going to list guys like Mike Edwards, who just rejoined the team, clearly was left to depart and came back. I do think he's a good signing because he understands he is 30 years old, so you got to be careful there. There's a lot of guys that are signed that I think someone out of this group has to prove something because it's a little thick. We've talked about the lack of defensive tackle talent the whole time, but yet you have 3 players that are likely right now slotted for the practice squad. Somebody's got to prove something and get out of that. Marlon Tuipulotu is one of them. Siaki Ika is another, highly touted, hasn't panned out yet. And my guy, Fabian Lovett, super long, super, I think, athletic for the position, and somebody who's now been working with Joe Cullen for a year. I do like him coming out of this group, but they've got to get something out of it. Those guys all have something to prove. The defensive line group in general does as well, and I think maybe nobody more than Charles Omenihu, who was able to return to his progress, to his credit in making that effort. I thought he worked really hard. It was good to see him back on the field, but he wasn't himself yet. And I think he's even mentioned that in some social media lately, that he is working real hard to get back so that he can prove what he's worth. And I think that's important. A motivated Charles Omenihu is a good thing for this roster, especially when you're talking about, is Mike Dana going to start opposite George Karlaftis right now? Is it going to be Karlaftis? Is it going to be FAU, who is the other player at this position that has to prove something? You've had a lot of time. You're making appearances on Kay Adams and whatever else is going on. Time to step it up. And I hope that when the Chiefs made this selection, they were hopeful he could grow into not only a pass rusher, but somebody that can make a difference in ball games. I hope that he's able to get to that point and really make that statement, because motivation is the key here. For FAU in particular, hand fighting has been something he's had to work on. Get off on the ball has been something he's had to work on. Playing inside, he's actually shown you a couple of good snaps, maybe more so than I expected. But now he's got to put it together from playing on the edge where he belongs, what he was brought here to do. Otherwise, it becomes a question of, is he going to pan out and give you anything for that first-round pick that you used to select him? That's going to be the question. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't think that he's in danger of being cut right now, but I'm really interested to see what Ethan Driscoll can prove right now, because the Chiefs have taken the attitude that we got the veteran sign in Jalen Moore. We gave him a pretty big contract for his track record. And we're rolling with it. We think Kingsley Suamataia can go inside to left guard and at least compete with Mike Caliendo, who, if Kingsley Suamataia cannot beat out Mike Caliendo, there's something wrong with Kingsley. But the question remains, Wanye Morris is likely the backup on the other side. Could he go inside to guard if he had to? Possibly. I don't like his movement skills as much as I like Kingsley, so I would hold off on that. But the question becomes the long shot, the shot in the dark guy that they tried in Ethan Driscoll. I want to see what he has. We haven't seen much of it. And this class is very, very thin at the top echelon of offensive tackles. It's more and more difficult as days go by up to the run up to the draft to see them moving up for one of those tackles because of how far they would have to move. There are very few grades in the first round for offensive tackles that you feel can play that position. There's a lot of offensive tackles in college that can move into guard, and you feel good about that. The true tackles are a bit harder to find. And one of them is coming off significant injury. We've talked about Josh Simmons before, and we will probably do that again. So the question becomes is, what do you have already on the roster? And what can you motivate him to come prove? Ethan Driscoll is a guy that I do want to watch quite a bit. And obviously, Jared Wiley coming off of injury, you can't ask a whole lot of that. Robert Ton's about an inch away from retirement. I would like to see Baylor Cupp come along at the tight end position, but the guy that's got to prove something is Noah Gray. This is the time because we can see the end for Travis Kelce here. This should be the swan song. From what I hear, Travis is working hard and he should be in prime shape to make a big run in this season, and maybe that's going to be it. You have to see the heir apparent step up into it. Noah Gray's the closest thing that they have right now. Can he actually put a big step forward? And I don't mean just make timely plays, because he's always been good at that. He's always been somebody that when you need a play, he'll leak out, he'll make a good catch, he'll be in the right place. But can you go to him over and over and over? Can you go to him when they're trying to take him away? That's going to be the big question for this offense this year. So it's something that I'm really keen to see. I do think that he has the ability. I just got to see him actually step up and do it. And I hope that because of the situation with Travis Kelce, it will give him an opportunity where maybe he gets more routes, not just more snaps. I think that's going to be the thing that really tells us where he's going to be at. So last player on the offensive side that I do want to see, I'm trying not to be on the negative, but Skyy Moore has to show something if he wants to continue to play in this league. This is kind of a last hurrah for him. And if he doesn't, then who else is on this roster? Justin Ross has had a lot of opportunities, hasn't been able to capitalize on them yet. He'll get another opportunity. I do think the Chiefs add someone in the draft, maybe more than that. But the guy that's really intriguing to me that I don't think has a solid place yet is Tyquan Thornton, who has a lot of the tools that the Chiefs look for, but just hasn't been able to put it together yet. Maybe with more opportunity here coming in OTAs and in the preseason, he can be one of those guys that proves that he needs a bigger role. I'm looking forward to that. Let me know who you're looking forward to. Put it in the YouTube comments. I would like to know. And if you think that I've missed someone that is maybe overrated or needs to go prove something, I want to know who you think it is. There'll be more risers and fallers as we get closer to the draft. Some of that will be smoke, but we will discuss it. So make sure that you like and sub and you're with us for the whole thing. Check out Rogue APC. Get the Matrix. Get the draft guide as soon as it comes out. I'm working hard on it. It should be by Monday night, so make sure that you check that out as well. NFL 33 and RGR football all have content coming pretty consistently, so make sure you check those out as well. And lastly, get on another Locked On show for your next listen. I appreciate you guys being with me, especially dealing with the voice. Very much appreciated the patience. And Chris will be back at some point, and we will get back onto what we're going to do towards this draft. Make sure you check that out. Thanks for being with us today. Very much appreciate the support and you being here today. And we will talk to you tomorrow.